Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 animal controversies in movies.
Now the bear was raging mad. He'd had enough of rummaging through drawers after a cat. Now he was going to pull the whole shack apart.
Next, you're gonna tell us there are poisonous snakes in the outhouse.
For this list, we'll be ranking the most infamous or high-profile instances where film productions were accused of animal mistreatment. We will not be considering traditional documentaries for this list, but Mondo-styled semi-docs and moments where animal scenes were actually staged by crew members will be allowed. Were you surprised by any of these entries? Let us know in the comments. Number 20. Maritime Carelessness. Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. Most movie productions do everything in their power to ensure the safety of animal actors on their sets, but occasionally casualties occur due to simple oversight. This was the case with 2003's Pirates of the Caribbean, specifically with its use of explosives. The Hollywood Reporter shared production documents that revealed many small fish wound up dead as a result of careless detonation during the more intense action scenes.
Stop blowing holes in my ship!
This could have honestly been avoided had folks behind the scenes had a little forethought as to how the marine life would react to what they were doing in the name of blockbuster cinema.
Amanda said that.
Number 19. A Forced Swim. A Dog's Purpose. Sometimes what's on screen doesn't exactly reflect what's going on in real life. After all, cinema by nature is artifice, so it's not exactly surprising to discover that the 2017 tearjerker A Dog's Purpose actually had some sinister controversy going on behind the scenes. We're talking about a TMZ report that shows a dog being forced into churning water against its will before being submerged. It should be said that these animals are trained actors, and the film's director was present during the sequence. A follow-up investigation later disputed any animal cruelty claims and, quote, concluded that safety measures on the set of the film were in place and the video had been deliberately edited to mislead the public, according to the American Humane Association.
I would not say in the real context that the dog was frightened. The dog was acting like a dog who was kind of tired of taking a bath.
We can't blame the dog for being scared of going in, but at the same time, should he really have been forced into doing the scene? Number 18. The Premise. Cockfighter. There's really no getting around the controversy behind this next movie on our list because the reasons are really right there on the tin. Cockfighter is actually well regarded by critics as one of the best cult movies of the 1970s, but this is in spite of the film's violently staged contests of real-life animal cruelty. Cockfighter has become increasingly difficult to see as a result, with the UK never even receiving a proper release of the film. It's a difficult decision die-hard movie fans have to make. Do they want to watch this acclaimed and compelling character drama while ignoring the real-life cockfights? It's ultimately up to the individual.
I didn't watch those poor chickens fighting, I watched your face. No pity, no love, nothing. I think that bird has more of a heart than you ever will have. He sure as hell has more of a voice.
Number 17. Snake Shenanigans. Friday the 13th. It's easy to forget, particularly in the wild and woolly world of 80s slashers, that there's occasionally a bit of real-life violence that pops up. The first Friday the 13th, for example, features a scene where a snake is loose in one of the cabins at Camp Crystal Lake.
I can't get it till it comes out.
Well, call him.
How do you call a snake?
Bill chases it for a while with a machete before finally catching it and using the weapon in a fairly realistic fashion, because it actually was real. The scene was reportedly not in the script and developed off the cuff by special effects legend Tom Savini when he found the snake slithering around in his cabin. It's an honestly shocking moment, and one that's gained more traction with fans as stories surrounding the scene have been unearthed.
Well, at least we know what's for dinner.
Number 16. Kangaroo Hunt. Wake in Fright. Our next entry is a film with a complex release history and an even more troubled reputation for animal cruelty. Wake in Fright, by all accounts, is a landmark film from the Australian new wave of the 1970s and 80s. However, its taut psychological thriller elements are undercut by an infamous scene where kangaroos are hunted in increasingly violent fashion.
Hey, I hit him! Hey, John, where are you going? I hit him!
This sequence is even more troubling, knowing that the crew behind the film expressed frustration with the, quote, professional licensed hunters who seemed to become progressively drunker during their shoot. It eventually became so traumatic that the power had to be cut in order to spare the kangaroos any more destruction. Number 15, feline fiasco, Shatantongo. The next animal on our list thankfully didn't lose its life for the sake of cinema, but it certainly didn't have a great time. Bela Tarr's 1994 film, Shatantongo, is notable for its 7-hour running time, but it's also infamous for one scene where a little girl torments a cat before poisoning it on screen. The director maintains that the girl and cat rehearsed the scene beforehand, and that a veterinarian was consulted to make the death scene more realistic with a sedative. Still, cats really aren't meant to be swung around or manhandled like this, regardless of whether or not they're appearing in a movie. Number 14, cow and horse trauma, Andrei Rublev. It's a question of morality. If an animal is due for slaughter, is it okay to capture that animal's demise on camera for shock value? Andrei Tarkovsky had to answer this question when he filmed Andrei Rublev. Specifically, there's a scene where a horse procured from a local slaughterhouse is given a graphic on-screen demise before then dying off-screen and being sent back to the abattoir. Additionally, a cow is set on fire. Although Tarkovsky claims that an asbestos suit kept the animal from harm, the director has stated in an interview for Literature No Obuzrini that other films have shown, quote, much more cruel things, but this doesn't really excuse nor remove Andrei Rublev from its controversial status.
Нечистое это. Ну какой есть, не сумел, видно, чистоту во мне воспитать.
Number 13, sketchy filmmaking, Land Without Bread. Land Without Bread is a sort of early precursor to the Mondo film, that dark corner of the documentary world that often employs exploitable elements or ethnocentrism alongside legitimate travelogue footage. Director Luis Buñuel documents an impoverished and isolated area of Spain, and along the way, inserts some shocking scenes of animal cruelty.
On ne consomme de la viande de chèvre que lorsque l'une d'elles se tue, ce qui arrive quelquefois quand le sol est abrupt et les sentiers escarpés.
To this day, rumors and controversy surround scenes from Land Without Bread that include a goat being forced off a cliff and a donkey that was reportedly doused in honey to attract the bees that would end its life.
Un jour, nous rencontrons cet âne avec son chargement de ruches que 2 urdanos conduisent vers Salamanque.
It's all incredibly harsh and incredibly hard to watch. Number 12, farm violence, dry summer. On-screen animal deaths possess one purpose and one purpose only, to shock. Case in point, the 1964 Turkish film Dry Summer counts icons like Martin Scorsese among its fans, despite featuring a couple of controversial animal scenes. One such sequence occurs when a chicken is slaughtered, but even more shocking is the on-screen death of a dog. It's honestly horrible stuff that's very difficult to watch. Number 11, target practice, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. They didn't call Sam Peckinpah Bloody Sam for nothing. The director shocked audiences in the late 60s with the level of violence brought to the screen in his western The Wild Bunch, both the stylized stuff with the actors and a very real death for one unfortunate scorpion. The director's 1973 film, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, went even further with the animal controversy, as some live chickens are shot for some target practice. The real kicker here, however, is that the fowl aren't even given a fair chance to run, as they're buried up to their necks with no place to go.
It's pretty fair shooting for an old married man. Just lucky, I guess. How are you, kids? Good to see you. Good to see you.
Number 10, horse jump, Jesse James. Accounts vary over the infamous case of one particular horse during the filming of 1939's Jesse James. Many film historians point to this Western as an early landmark for the American Humane Association becoming involved in Hollywood to monitor their films for animal cruelty. Yet one biography of producer Daryl F. Zanuck claims that steps were made to ensure safety for the equine actors.
We gotta keep going, son. Hold on.
Now hold tight, Jesse, because there's only one way out of here.
Whichever side you believe, the scene where a horse takes a dive off a cliff into the water sure looks dangerous, with reports claiming that the animal either drowned or died upon impact. Number 9. Horse falls. Stagecoach. Speaking of westerns, an intrinsic aspect of storytelling within this genre happens to be horse stunts. Oftentimes, especially in the modern day, horse actors are trained to fall in a certain way that looks realistic without being very dangerous. However, movies like Stagecoach unfortunately employed a now banned technique of using tripwires to make the horses fall for real. Many horses have died as a result of this practice, especially in westerns from this early era of cinema. It's a troubling example of how little regard was put into the safety of animal actors back in the day. Number 8. The Running W. Ben-Hur. No, we're not talking about the famous version of Ben-Hur starring Charlton Heston, but rather an even earlier adaptation from the days of silent film. Today, the film is seen as a landmark of grand-scale filmmaking, whose influence can even be found in films like The Phantom Menace. Unfortunately, it's also been made infamous for the rampant neglect paid to its animal actors. Remember the tripwires we discussed in the Stagecoach entry? Yeah. Many horses reportedly lost their lives during the filming of Ben-Hur, much of them galloping at full speed before being hit with what the industry used to call the running W. Number 7. Behind a Closed Set. Heaven's Gate. It's never a good sign when the American Humane Association is banned from monitoring your film for animal cruelty. It presents itself as a clear indication that there's something to hide. The AHA spared nothing in their response to Michael Cimino's Heaven's Gate. When this occurred, picketing its release and sending out press releases accusing the film of abusing cows, horses, chickens, and more throughout its production.
The jury evidently took it for granted that the rest of the animal was still out roaming the range.
The organization views the film as unacceptable viewing, thanks to unsimulated cockfights, dead cows, and the reported on-camera detonation of dynamite for both the horse and its rider. Number 6. Eating Octopus. Old Boy.
자, 나왔습니다. 산 거 맞죠?
We've discussed a lot of older films on this list, but that doesn't mean that the modern day is free from its own share of controversy. Old Boy is, by all accounts, a cult classic from director Park Chan-wook, but it also features a harrowing scene that fans are still talking about to this day. We're talking, of course, about the scene where actor Choi Min-sik eats a live octopus on camera for real.
명심하라. 모래알이든 바위덩어리든 물에 가라앉기는 마찬가지다.
The kicker here is that Min-sik is actually a Buddhist, and behind-the-scenes footage shows the actor praying and apologizing to each of the octopi he had to eat for his takes. Number 5. Ritual Sacrifice. Apocalypse Now. Apocalypse Now is undoubtedly a classic from the new Hollywood movement, a period where young, hotshot directors had unprecedented control over their artistic visions. However, that doesn't mean that the film is exempt from controversy, particularly during its hallucinogenic final sequence. According to director Francis Ford Coppola, his crew had traded animals to the local tribe in exchange for permission to shoot on their land. As a result, a few water buffalo were scheduled to be slaughtered for food. Coppola's wife Eleanor shot one of these sacrifices for her documentary, Hearts of Darkness, which inspired the director to shoot another animal and juxtaposed it against the final demise of Colonel Kurtz. Number 4. Swine Cruelty. Weekend. Sometimes the sequences of animal cruelty, for better or worse, are telegraphed to us in the audience. We get that feeling in the pit of our collective stomachs that something is just not right. Other times, the impact is so quick and shocking that we almost can't quite believe what we're seeing. Weekend is one of those instances, a film by acclaimed French director Jean-Luc Godard that is stylish, smart, and yes, even darkly comedic. However, this doesn't make the death of a pig any less surprising to us when it happens. It's just another curveball from Godard's bag of cinema tricks. That said, it's one gross and disturbing curveball. Number 3. A Man, a Woman, and a Chicken. Pink Flamingos.
You ready, Ma? You ready yet?
I'm ready, darling. Just let me say goodbye to Mama and Cotton. I'll be out in a minute, honey.
Okay, Ma, but get the lead out of your ass. I'll be late for my date.
All right.
Our next entry might be the most depraved and tasteless film on this list, an honor for which director John Waters would most likely wear loud and proud.
How much is that dog in the window?
Ignoring for a moment that Pink Flamingos includes arguably the most shocking and disgusting ending to a film in history, it also contains one of the most flagrant instances of animal cruelty. It occurs during an intimate scene between two characters, with a live chicken between those two characters. The animal, needless to say, did not survive the encounter. Also needless to say, we can't exactly show the entirety of it here. Moreover, Waters has defended the scene numerous times, remaining unrepentant about this little slice of exploitation infamy. Number 2. A disingenuous premise. The Adventures of Milo and Otis.
And Milo, I've told you again and again, please, don't walk on the chickens.
It's simultaneously one of the most beloved children's films of all time, while also being one of the most wretched offenders when it comes to a dismissive use of animal talent. The Adventures of Milo and Otis was produced in Japan, but received major attention overseas with an English dub and narration by Dudley Moore. The original version has sequences that were edited out of the American version, including a cat falling from a cliff and a pug versus bear sequence that is just inconceivable. Beyond this, accusations were also laid at the filmmakers of intentionally harming a cat to give it a limp on screen. It's all just too horrible to imagine. Before we unveil our most repugnant number 1 pick, here are some dishonorable mentions. Real animal remains. El Topo, despite the director being a lifelong vegetarian.
Cuando lo hice, no pensé que sirviera para algo. Únicamente traté de hacerlo lo mejor posible.
Donkey for Dinner. Manderley, a cinematic sacrifice.
The sins of the past are sins I cannot and do not wish to help you erase.
A Real Rabbit Hunt. The Rules of the Game. Unflinching realism. Harrowed Horses. The Charge of the Light Brigade. More frightening horse falls.
Charging! What madness.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. The Turtle. Cannibal Holocaust. Cannibal Holocaust is a film that's notable for pioneering the found footage style of filmmaking, while at the same time being infamous for its instances of animal cruelty. There's a bevy of scenes that made Cannibal Holocaust a temporarily banned film in multiple countries, including the United States, Australia, and New Zealand.
Hey! Mira! Here comes dinner.
There's a cringe-inducing scene with a Cody early on, but it's the on-screen death of a turtle that's probably the most well-known, as it lingers for such an uncomfortably long amount of time that we'll let you watch it all on your own should that be of interest to you. This was actually par for the course with many films in the Italian cannibal genre for many years, but it's Cannibal Holocaust that remains the most high-profile example of such extremity to this day. Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.